Yeah, so I'm Alex Cumming, and I'm an accordionist and folk singer, obviously by the accent originally from England, but I've been living up in New England for about 8 years now, and massively into the world of folk song and folklore, so which kind of got me into this whole realm in the first place.
How did you become interested in Olive Dame Campbell and her song collecting?
When I first moved to America about 8 years ago, I moved to Medford, Massachusetts, which is like in the suburbs of Boston, in the Boston area. And, you know, like any kind of person interested and excited about folklore and history and all of that, I wanted to kind of learn about what was where I was moving. And so one thing I learned was Jingle Bells was written in Medford, and Fanny Farmer, the cook, was in Medford, and Amelia Earhart had a house in Medford. So I learned all these things. But the thing that really got me excited was learning that Olive Dame Campbell was born and raised and went to university in Medford. And actually her house was like 2 blocks away from where I was living for all those many years. So there's that kind of this moment to be able to touch and be near that piece of history, which is really exciting. And I'd learned about Olive Dame Campbell a little bit at university because I studied folk and traditional music at Newcastle University in England, in the Northeast. I got really excited about her ballad collections and then her work generally in education reform and her ability to sort of recognize people for being people, which was fascinated me. And the big thing that kind of took me over the edge, which you'll see in the presentation that we did as well, is that when she collaborated with Cecil Sharp, she was credited as a co-author collector in the English folk songs of the Appalachians in the first edition, and later edition she was moved to a footnote. And that kind of was that last little bit of fire to me that was like, this is not right. She did so much more work than she's been given credit for. And it's, you know, that annoying thing of old white man take glory, woman brush to the side thing of history that, you know, fired me up. And that's kind of what gave me the fire to really delve into the life and work of Olive.
How did the idea for this mentorship come about?
It's been a growing idea, and it sort of grew in time from being like just a time looking at her songs to then realizing that actually Olive as a whole person is really fascinating and gives a real good context to understanding her songs if you understand her and her approaches to education and to people and to life generally, because she had a very different way to collecting folk songs than many other collectors. Cecil Sharp is an easy comparison because they collaborated together. So I really wanted to be able to have time to be able to sit down and contemplate and read and learn from people who knew her as well, the kind of person she was and how that influenced the way she collected the folk songs, how it influenced the way she started the school, and how all those things influenced the way, how the folk school ethos of like this sort of friendly community family feel. I really wanted to be able to have a full understanding as opposed to, here's some nice songs, you know. It's really fascinating. And like, again, it goes to that idea of like, a lot of Olive Dame Campbell in this area is like hugely known about and celebrated, but you know, outside of this area, many people don't even know who she is. And so I wanted to be able to give that opportunity for people to come and really deep dive into her and be able to go forth and, you know, tell her stories and, you know, have other people really geekily excited as I am about how she made things work, you know.
How's it been being on campus? You know, a lot of these buildings were built during Olive's lifetime, and she spent a lot of time in this room right now, in farmhouse, community room. So how's that been?
Pretty magic. Part of me had hoped before this mentorship started that I was going to be able to come and visit before the mentorship so I could have my emotional time by myself. But actually, it turned out to be a really quite magical moment to be able to share that first experience with the 3 mentorship people as well, because we're able to look at these old photos and these old stories and either be in the space or like be able to see the space where that happened. So like spending a bit of time at the farmhouse, which was one of the original buildings on the thing where Olive lived for so many years, was kind of a really magical, moving experience. And the first day we were meeting in the community room where I was sharing sort of like a timeline and history of Olive and the school. And we found this photo which didn't have a credit to where it was taken. And the four of us just managed to work out it was right in the corner where we were sat right then. And it was kind of a real magical moment to be able to be like, I've done so much reading, so much learning about her, and to be in those physical spaces that she walked, you know. There's that kind of, that idea that if walls could speak, you know, the amount of history they could tell. And it really has felt like that doing this work here, because you'll be able to live the history as such as well, which is fascinating. And it's also really cool because I get to actually physically see how the school has grown from those first days of here at Keith House and the farmhouse, and how the land grew, the buildings grew as the school grew, you know. And actually to physically see that instead of just a 2D map is like fascinating. But it's that kind of, it sounds strange, but that kind of like physical and spiritual connection to a old place like this really kind of tips up. It wouldn't, this kind of 2-week course would not have been the same for many reasons if we couldn't have done it here. And it was just a really magical experience to be in the space of Olive while learning about Olive.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the format of the class? It seems to me from the outside, this is less of a teacher and 3 students and more 4 people working together to dive into, you know, the life of Olive.
That was kind of it. And unlike, so with the Craftsman Mentorship, there's been, you know, we're going to learn this particular style or technique on this one thing for 2 weeks and really nail down. And one thing that I was aware from quite early on when I was asked to do this is that there is too much material to make it worth doing, effectively lecturing at people. because there's so much material, each one of the people on the mentorship all had slightly different interests and were able to go and read about different aspects of a life. And so I really wanted this course to be that kind of opportunity to have the park academic side of things while, you know, reading and the archive diving and all of that, as well as being able to have hands-on experience with the music and making music both together and solo. And so I wanted this kind of like part academic, part performance thing going on. And it was obvious to me that it was going to be a collaborative experience. And I for one, don't declare myself the world's biggest Olive expert. There are so many more people probably more qualified than I am, but I'm a big enthusiast. And to me, it felt like if I was able to facilitate this learning and discussion, that would be what would be most worth it. Because what got me excited about Olive was these little snippets of things that I was really excited about and I could personally delve into. And what I wish I had was an opportunity for someone to go, well, if you're interested in that, look here. And, you know, I would have saved myself like 3 years of digging and diving, you know. So I wanted that opportunity for the students to be able to have a real collaborative experience and hands-on experience, as well as having own time to really delve into everything and report back and, you know, and just be a really organic experience, because I don't think it could have worked any other way, really. I learned so much this week. When do you ever have an opportunity to just check out from your life, check out from all your work, check out from your family, and have 2 weeks to spend on one subject? That like never happens. And so like I learned so much this week from the readings we did, but also from the people on the mentorship as well. We all taught each other a lot, and I think that's one thing to me that felt very Olive about the whole thing, because she was from what we've read, she was a very good listener. She was very good at community building in that realm. And I think this format of the course kind of did that, because it was a lot of listening and understanding what each other wanted. And we all got a lot of what we wanted out of it, because we all came with different aims, but we all came together and produced this really nice presentation together, despite our mad and crazy different opinions and ideas and readings, and we could have spent probably 6 months doing this, and 2 weeks was not enough. And it's me coming in thinking, 2 weeks is going to be too long, but by far we've only touched the tip of the iceberg with reading about Olive. I just wanted it to be a really lovely collaborative experience, so we could just really grow and learn together, and I think we achieved that pretty well, which was exciting.
What were some kind of memorable, magical moments or surprises you found in the archives?
The biggest surprise to me was the huge breadth of stuff we covered and how much we could not fit into the presentation. One of my most interesting things from here at the school, we met with Travis, the archivist here at the school, and he had discovered in his sort of searching through the archives and finding things a few days ago, discovered a collection of protest songs from the Highlander Folk School over in Tennessee. And this was stuff from the Highlander Folk School, and it was really interesting. And I've started to sort of like research and kind of figure out what connection this folk school and the Highlander Folk School had together, because they had very different approaches to the folk school movement. I mean, the Highlander Folk School started in a similar way. Miles Horton went to Denmark, studied the folk schools, and was excited by that idea and kind of, local crafts and people's work, much like the John C. Campbell Folk School. But their roots went down a very social justice route in the end. They ended up with people like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King there, and that just kind of opened. It was one of the things that kind of opened the big can of worms of like, I have a whole new realm to research, because they inevitably, Olive and Miles had contact together, and I really want to know what set the two schools apart, because obviously Olive was a very progressive person in many ways. She was this incredibly inspirational, powerful woman who was leading this incredible thing, and she was amazingly business savvy and incredibly intelligent. But she was also a missionary and had kind of these very traditional values as well. And so I really want to read more into her placement and the folk school's placement within that social justice history place, and trying to contextualize that and comparing it to the Highlander Folk School and seeing how that relationship was, because it is a really fascinating piece of history. And the folk school did a lot for a change in gender roles and stereotype and classism and things. But there was a lot they didn't do, and I want to know why. Is that and there were so many little points like that from visits with Travis at the archives here. We visited Mars Hill, the Southern Appalachian collection there, and looked at Bascom Lunsford's collection, and we had chats with various incredible people here at the school and ballad singers as well, who all opened these different questions. And I think that was my biggest takeaway from this week, was there's just so much more to learn, and I think there will always be stuff to learn. And the exciting thing is that Travis here at the archives has a lot more to uncover, and they're typing up the letters and all their correspondence they have there, and there's many more things to find. And I think in the coming years we're going to really be able to have a much more personal picture from Olive herself about her as a person, and I'm really excited to see what comes from this new archival project here.